Welcome. This is the first episode of the Shonen Dump Podcast. My name is Nick. I'm joined by my co-host, Bobby.
Hello.
We've been friends for a long time. We constantly read manga and talk about it together, so I thought, hey, why not put our thoughts weekly into video format, in a podcast format. And so that's what we're going to do. Every week we're going to go through all the released chapters, discuss what we liked, what we didn't like, and hopefully get more out of it in a kind of formal discussion. So we have a wheel with all of the choices on screen right now, and what we're going to do is we're going to one by one go through, and for the first week we're going to explain kind of what the series is about in case you're new and you're just watching us for some reason, which if that's the case, thank you. And we'll try to guide you along all these new series as best we can. So without further ado, why don't we spin this wheel, huh?
Yeah, go for it.
So, Me and Roboco is a comedy series about a young boy in a world where robot maids are given out to a bunch of families, not really for free, but it's usually it's kind of like a cultural norm to have a robot servant maid. They kind of have personalities, they kind of don't. It's all played for laughs. Sometimes it's very heartwarming. I would definitely recommend this one. It's definitely, I don't hate reading this every week. My general thoughts on everything with Me and Roboco is definitely positive. What about you, Bobby? How do you feel about the series?
I would say that I enjoy it. It's a gag comedy series, a lot of parody. It's definitely one of those series where I think that you get more out of it if you're a fan of Shonen Jump series. And especially me, I've read quite a few. There's just tons of references to a lot of stuff that are both classic and also current and running. I don't read what is it called? Ayashi Triangle? Yeah, it's Ayakashi Triangle. So it has a lot of references to both old and classic series, but also a lot of the new ones. I don't read Ayakashi Triangle, so those jokes kind of fall a little flat on me. But there's even stuff about Yu Yu Hakusho, for example, which is very old, very classic shonen series. And there's just tons of jokes all around, and it's just a lighthearted, fun thing. And it can trip you up with a little bit of sweetness sometimes. I'm a fan.
So, how'd you feel about the most recent chapter?
It was okay. I mean, my one problem with the chapter is that it's about Serizawa, or it's sort of a Serizawa chapter, and I'm not a huge fan of this character. I just think the only gag about him that I really find funny is that he's 20 and he looks like he's old. But I guess really it's less about him, which is fine. Gag of ooh, it's so deep, they're in the woods, it's okay. But it was all right. How'd you feel?
I don't know. I really like this one. I'm with you. I'm not a big fan of the chapters revolving around that character. Generally, they're a bit boring. I guess that's subjective, but to how I feel, they're a bit slower and less funny than the other ones. But with this one, it mostly revolved around the three boys. And what's her name? Madoka? Madoka. I will never get Japanese names right for the most part. But I really liked just each of them cutting away and being very impressed with the next. I don't know. I thought this was a silly little chapter. It's not one that I'll probably remember in a few weeks, but I was like, oh, this is silly. I liked it.
I think one of the biggest strengths of Me and Roboco, honestly, is the art style is very simple, but the facial expressions are like just god tier. Like, yeah, because like even like because obviously there's like the big ones where it's like, ooh, Monaco looks like an old man because XD, and then there's like Bondo had like a big panel, and but like I don't know, like even like small panels where it's like Gory putting his hand on his neck, like, and he's looking all cute. It's just funny because, you know, if you know what Gory looks like in this, his name implies he's kind of gorilla-esque. So it's just really funny when he's looking cute.
Yeah, there is one thing I've noticed that the mangaka really loves to draw a specific facial expression with like kind of like the mouth open in like an enraged kind of way, and one of their eyes are closed.
Yeah, yeah.
That's like at least once a chapter that is in there, and it's used for a lot of different things, mostly like shock or like kind of like screams of passion, you know.
Yeah, yeah, I
So
get you.
but other than that, like I agree with you, it's got some very strong facial expressions it's got going on. So
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I'm not a fan of the character Serizawa, but this chapter is more on the kids, which I think is where the strength is. There's not much Roboco actually, which is not unusual, but it do be called mean Roboco, so
the main trio is definitely where I think the story rocks the most. There's been a few chapters where Gorilla and Matsudo, is that his name? Matsuo?
Matsuo, yeah.
Where they are kind of they like work together to protect Bondo from like
Oh,
a
when like
socially awkward situation.
yeah, because there's like a double jump issue, so there's like it's missing a week, and
Yeah, yeah.
he's like he just doesn't have pants on. Those are great.
Whenever there's an actual in real life jump like hiatus, I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure that's when they time those chapters of like Bondo being upset that Jump wasn't out last week,
Yeah,
and it always puts a smile. I don't know why. The joke's fairly simple, but it always gets a smile out of me.
it's fun. I mean, the best part, I think one of the funniest dynamics is that like the fact that his friends like they have like this inclination to be asshole-ish in the way they do things, even though they're completely like the nicest people on the planet.
Yeah, like the first chapter, like you get the tropiness of like, oh, it's the two bullies, you know, but then you realize, wait, they're just kind of nice,
Yeah,
and
no, it's
that never stops. Yeah, that also doesn't get old. That's
the
a good one.
art, yeah, the art like being like portraying them is like they're kind of like mean, they're bullies, you know. But like you like look at the actual dialogue and it's like you look really good today. Yeah, I bet he like put a lot of effort into his looks or something.
I really respect that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's really awesome. Like, it's very funny. I'm a big fan. It's definitely I don't we don't obviously, according to this wheel, we don't read a lot of comedy series at the moment. But it's definitely a good change of pace from all the battle stuff we're reading constantly.
Definitely
So,
nice.
yeah, it's definitely nice and slow and just kind of relaxing. There are some chapters, I will say, that are just like so incredibly wordy. Like there's one recently about like Twitter.
Oh yeah, I actually thought that was funny, but that's maybe because I'm just on Twitter a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. I have trash brain. So my like um my like eyes just glazed over as I saw like 50 blocks of text about Twitter. I was like, it's gonna be about like not having followers or something, and I was right. It's what it was, and I was like, yeah, well, I read it, and you know, I'm gonna keep reading it. But there are every once in a blue moon a chapter that I'm just like, oh,
Yeah,
I fall asleep.
but this week of me and Roboco, I'd say it was a
Mm-hmm.
fine chapter.
Yeah, yeah, it's all right.
Yeah. Ooh, and speaking of a break from all the battle shonen, here's the
Hmm.
one real romance series.
Yeah, that was disguised as a sports anime.
All right, so Blue Box is about these high schoolers. It's a high school romance rom-com, but it's also a sports series. So the school they go to is really prestigious for a lot of like sports types of stuff. The main character is a very proficient badminton player, and the main girl is a basketball player. So essentially the main character Taichi, he goes to the school and there's like this senpai girl who she is a really important figure at the school's basketball team, and she has a dream of making it to nationals. And so he ends up in a situation where she ends up living in his home because their parents, I think they're friends or something, right? Um and so now this like senpai that who he like develops a crush on is now living with him, and there's kind of a love triangle involved. And yeah, the series definitely uses sports less as a like way to drive the plot. The plot is definitely how the relationships between the characters develop. The sports are kind of just like more of an analogy that the series uses to kind of symbolize like how the character is feeling, or like representing like their like motivation or drive. How do you feel? I would say like Blue Box. I really enjoy it. It's a nice, lighthearted read. It's a bit tropey, but it is definitely executing fairly well for what it is, and I think it's a really nice break from everything else that exists in Shonen Jump at the moment. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I want to bring up when we this is one of the newer series that we are reading. And I remember this came out and we were texting back and forth about like, oh, did you read Blue Box? Like, yeah, I did. Like, it's where I have a new sports anime. That's kind of cool. Uh, and as the chapters went on, like I think it got around to like 3 or 4 chapters in, and like the most of the like badminton games we were seeing was like the last point, and I was like, huh, I don't know if this is sports manga anymore. And we were talking about it. Then like it just stopped showing it all together. Pretty much. I mean, it'll like be there, but like we never like will see a full match in the series. I think I find that a little bit funny.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like if you like think about like a Haikyuu, it's like the meat of the content, the action that you're looking for is the sports. But like I think like some of my favorite scenes in Blue Box is like some of the biggest ones are like they're just sitting on a playground and they're just talking to each other.
Yeah, no,
and
I completely agree. Yeah,
and they like when they get to like a big moment and they're like talking about their feelings, they like cut to a scene of some other character who they might be like implying or talking about, and it's like, oh, I think Chinatsu Senpai is like so incredible, and it just shows her like playing basketball, and you're just like, it's like that is the sports, the sports is like a medium to portray the character in like an interesting light. It's less of like it's sports more, and it's more so it's romance, which I'm not complaining about, but it is kind of a bait. It does bait you a little.
yeah, it got me for sure. I mean like I knew it was partially romance, but if you look at like all of the rest of Jump's catalog up until this point, like I wouldn't expect like it to be the main focus as much as it is. Like maybe share the spotlight, but like definitely not just be the whole thing. And I'm pleasantly surprised. Like kind of like how me and Roboco is. Like this is definitely another like change of pace. Like I usually save it in between, along with me and Roboco, like the battle manga I'm reading, just to like palate cleanse for the next thing. Very good. I don't have much to complain about. I will say, the on the romance factor, I would like them to kind of get a move on with it, because right now as it is, we're we're kind of just playing around with stuff and constantly like ending chapters with, ooh, are they gonna kiss? And then the next chapter's like, no, cannot do that. Stuff like that. It's just like, it's like, all right, you're kind of just teasing the whole thing. It's like, are you gonna do something with this?
Yeah, the whole love triangle between Taichi, Chinatsu, and like Hina. Like Hina's been getting a lot of chapters recently where it's like the end of the chapter is like, I really like you, Taichi, and Taichi's like, oh, why'd you have to say that, blah blah blah. And they did it again this week where it's like, I imagined I really did kiss you, Taichi, and he's like, huh?
Yeah, I guess we should get into what we felt about this week's chapter then.
Yeah.
I don't dislike it at all. I enjoyed it, but it kind of felt like the exact same chapter as last week.
Mm-hmm. That's how I was feeling.
Taiji really wants to be good at badminton. He's preparing for the school festival, and it ends with Chinatsu, or no, what's her name?
Hina.
Hina. It ends with Hina being like, I like you, by the way, remember that? And he's like, ooh, what? And so that, it just kind of happened again. And, a formula, if I don't think that it's going to just keep happening. I think that'd be a bit ridiculous to imagine being the case, but
I don't know. I wouldn't underestimate Shonen Jump rom-coms, man.
Yeah?
Yeah,
like,
no.
I at least think they're going to change up the character. It's going to be the other one being the blushing one.
I mean, so Nisekoi went on for hundreds of chapters. Like, I think it actually ended like in the 200s. But actually, Blue Box has been running for like a year now. Now that I think about it.
Has it really?
Yeah, because it's on chapter like 50 something. It's been over a year.
No way, dude.
Yeah, it really has been running for over a year at this point.
I feel like it's been like 6 months.
I know, dude, but that's the thing. Like these rom-coms, low key. This one's like hardly even a rom-com actually. Like it's just mostly rom, and then they have sports. Yeah. Comedy is like not important.
No, it's definitely not.
Yeah, but it's very yeah, it's been a year, and like the progress like exists, but like at the end of this chapter, what is it? Hina's like, you want to do it for real? Like talking about kissing, like because she's practicing for the play. But the thing is I've seen this happen before, where like they're trying to get to you, and they're like, oh my god, is this progress? Are they gonna kiss? I hope they kiss. But then next week, she's just, I know for a fact, and if Blue Box doesn't do this next week, my brain's exploding. They're gonna get me. But it's definitely gonna be played off, and he's gonna be like, ah ha ha, I'm kidding, of course. Why would we do that? We're not even dating. And it's like, okay, you just said that.
I think it'd be really awesome. I think it'd be really awesome if he was just like, nah.
He was just
like, it opens, it's like, nope. But then that would like kill like the ship for it, and they wouldn't want that. The ship is the three-way relation, the love triangle is too alluring. It's like basically the only reason a lot of people are reading. Probably
they gotta know
because I'm waiting for the big tournament. That's what I'm here for.
The big tournament.
I'm waiting for the big match that he's preparing for. I'm excited to see the one page of badminton play.
Worst case scenario. What happens is, like, something comes up with one of the girls, and Taichi disqualifies himself. How would you feel?
I'm sorry, repeat the words you just said out of your mouth?
In this worst case scenario that I just thought of, let's say the tournament does come. You're like, I can't wait for my one page of badminton. And what ends up happening, let's pretend this is what happens. Taichi disqualifies himself because something comes up with one of the girls and he has to help them. How would you feel? Like, he's supposed to be playing his match, getting ready for his match. Let's say, like, either Chinatsu or Hina, either one, something happens to them, and Taichi's like, I gotta be there for them. So he leaves the tournament before
I would think it'd be more reasonable to imagine that he hears it right before his match, and it makes him lose because he can't stop thinking. It like throws him off his game.
Okay, yeah.
That's like I if he leaves his match, like he's been like practicing this whole time, and like the whole point of like the romantic interest between Chinatsu and Taichi is like, oh, they're so passionate about their own things, you know? And if he just gave it up for a girl, I think it would undermine like the whole point of his character. Like I don't know.
No,
I think that would be pretty bad. I would feel much better if it threw him off his game and he lost that way. If he had to like lose, if it like lost regardless.
I think it's possible that I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Like in a way, he might be in a situation where he has to like let's say what I said does happen, you know, to Hina specifically, and then it's like, well, I have to choose. Do I choose Chinatsu through sports, or do I choose like leaving for Hina? But also, it's really funny how the series will kind of ham-fistedly remind you that that Taichi is motivated to be better at badminton, because there's a lot of I remember one panel several chapters ago where what happened was, it was like one character literally said, he like basically literally reminded us, yeah, Taichi's really passionate about badminton, because it was the series was so focused on like the relationships at some point that they had to remind us that, oh yeah, Taichi does go to this school for a reason, eh?
Yeah, it do be like that. I don't know. I like this series. I want it to continue because it's definitely something very interesting in Jump. But I just have like baby gripes with it, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, you know, I wish it would be less goofy at times, like how they do things, but I'm overall very happy with it and enjoy reading it week to week, regardless of what we're saying here.
Yeah. It's tropey, it's a little predictable, and it's not a new formula, but the execution is, I think, really good. The pacing, the moments, and like the art in general is like all great. And so, you know, it's never a chore to read. I'm always kind of excited to read it every week, actually.
Final, I think we kind of said what we want to say. Is there anything you want to say more?
No, I think we can put a lid on it.
All right. In that case, I have one more question.
Yeah.
Who do you ship?
Who do I ship? Dude, I kind of like how Hina and Taichi are. So I'm not expecting them to win, because the girl that's on the volume 1 cover is Chinatsu, and so I'm like, I've already lost. I know I'm losing, but I don't know. I like Hina more than Chinatsu.
Me? It's Taichi and badminton.
Ooh.
Follow your passion, bro. Follow your passion.
It's true. A real man's man you are.
Absolutely.
So, Jujutsu Kaisen, I'm sure the majority of the people who would be listening to something like this already know about Jujutsu Kaisen. Probably have, like, the anime is absolutely huge. And I think the sales numbers for Jujutsu Kaisen, are they at the top in Jump right now?
I'm not
like
sure on that one. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, excluding One Piece, I think Jujutsu Kaisen might be the most popular thing in Jump by far. But in case you don't know about Jujutsu Kaisen, the premise is essentially, there's like this world of like demons essentially, and the main character is just like absurdly physically strong. His name is Yuji Itadori, and essentially what happens is his grandpa like dies, and he tells Yuji in his like dying words, surround yourself with people who care about you, die happy, blah blah. And Yuji's like, okay. And so there's like this, is it like an occult club at its school, something like that? And they accidentally like summon this crazy demon, like with this weird like finger thing. And so in order to like, because of this demon that's like about to hurt his friends, what Yuji does is he like eats the finger to like obtain the energy that's like in there, and he becomes possessed, like not possessed, but his body harbors this like crazy legendary demon named Sukuna, and he basically has to learn about this world of jujutsu sorcerers, become stronger so that he can basically not let Sukuna come back to full power and kill everyone.
I think I'll kick off how I felt about this chapter, because in general I think it's pretty clear to say, pretty easy to say that like we enjoy it.
Yeah.
There are certain things that I would say might be issues in some minor ways, way less than like what we were saying about Blue Box. But this last chapter I thought was incredible. The one about Panda.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think?
I thought it was different in a really good way. I thought that it was really cool that, first of all, just to speak on the art of Jujutsu Kaisen in general, it's usually like really like gritty. The fidelity is not the greatest. It's always a little bit messy, but like the big panels still like look incredible. But in general, the art of Jujutsu Kaisen kind of has this really like grungy kind of feel. Like it's very like dark and like all the lines and stuff. This chapter like completely flipped that on its head when we're like seeing like what is like Panda's childhood basically, right? And I thought that was like really cool because he's definitely a character who we don't see too much of, like in terms of like what is he, but basically the backstory occurs, and I thought that was like really cool because he's definitely a character of interest that we haven't seen too much on. And then I thought the ending section, it was like it really hit because you have like this really like cute and clean art style that's very not Jujutsu Kaisen, and it just, the way it transitions back into like what's happening in like the current moment, it like really hits you when you see that big panel of like Panda like of like stuffing in like blood, and I was like, whoa.
So you thought it was a backstory?
Oh, you think this is like his imagination?
No, I think that's just like his internal, like that's what's going on inside. Like it's like a representation of the relationship he has with his siblings. Because I thought it was implying at the end when he was completely like blown to bits and it was just the panda head. Mm-hmm. I thought it was implying that like the other two were now dead because they had to leave. And they were saying, it was like, well, why are we leaving him? And the guy said, we're the ones being left behind.
That would actually make more sense as to why the art is like so different.
Yeah,
in, like that internal worldview.
Because from my understanding, he was like created by the principal with the two other souls like in him.
Oh yeah.
I might be misremembering something, but that's
no. I think actually you're right. I think I misinterpreted what exactly was happening in the chapter.
Yeah, no. I mean, I hope that they're not gone for good because the gorilla form and stuff was pretty cool, and I think that it's kind of like anti-power creeping Panda if he loses his like transformations, mm-hmm. which I really don't want him to become irrelevant because I really enjoy him. I mean, he'll never be like on the front lines like with Yuji and Okotsu and stuff, but I was it was very good. I think this was probably one of the best chapters of this week in general.
Yeah, it definitely was like emotionally pretty strong, and it like really hits you at the end. What's the one guy's name who like came in at the end? Do you remember?
He's the guy with the confusing power, right?
Yeah,
That's
I'm
him.
I'm trying to remember what his name is.
Oh, I have no idea. I'm gonna be real with you. I have zero clue who that guy is. I should be paying attention, but I don't know. You never really know with like new characters how relevant they're gonna be. So I
Yeah.
kind of like throw them to the back of my brain and then forget. And then if they become relevant, I'm like, crap, I don't know who you are. Like I remember you, I know your design, but like I couldn't tell you
Mm-hmm.
like what your name was. But what are you gonna do?
Hakari. Kinji Hakari. Oh, that actually that's that's so stupid. Kin. It literally means gold. So that's I guess I could remember that maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll probably remember that at the very least.
Um yeah, so Kinji's power, I mean Kinji shows up at the end basically to save the day, which is cool, but the chapter that involved his power, maybe it's because I don't really play pachinko. I don't really know how pachinko works or something. He like the info dump that they gave really did not help me understand how his power works exactly. Like obviously he's just kind of gambling, so maybe it doesn't matter how it works, but
That chapter, I was like, no. I turned to the info dump page where they explained how the power worked,
mm-hmm.
and I immediately checked out. I had to read that chapter 3 times, and I still don't know how his power worked.
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks ago or something. It was like insane. Like they explain.
I think it was. Oh wait, yeah, no, it was on break last week. It was 2 weeks ago.
Or no, was it 3 weeks ago?
Definitely not. It was close enough that I
Okay.
still feel slighted.
Okay, but either way, they showed you what the important parts of his power were without explaining how it like actually works. And so it was a little strange. I'm sure that like to someone who knows pachinko, maybe it makes a lot more sense. But when he says like at the end, he's like, I use luck. I use skill to grab a hold of luck.
Right.
I
That's
didn't
just
understand.
anime nonsense.
Yeah, I
That's
didn't
not...
understand what his influence was on the on the fight to make that happen. Because I would believe if it was like, ooh, he punched the train so that like it would stop and they'd have to like wait a little bit longer or something. You know, that would be like, oh, whoa, that's crazy. But I don't know what happened. I was just like, okay, he's just rolling more.
It's
more
kind of
draws.
like Power of Friendship, but like there's no friends involved.
Yeah.
That chapter was pretty abysmal to me. Like I was like, oh, that was rough. But
Yeah.
Overall, I think Jujutsu Kaisen is very good.
Oh
There
yeah.
are
No.
times where I have to maybe read something more than once just because I'm like, this is so many words. I didn't open this chapter expecting that, and then I go a bit slower than usual. But overall, big fan. Love this series, and I think like the anime will probably clear up the power of that guy so that we're able to actually comprehend what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely think, from what I've seen of the anime, the amount of effort that they put into the adaptation, I think, is definitely worth checking out. It's not too common where people will feel like the anime may be better than the manga, but it maybe is possible in the case of Jujutsu Kaisen. But even still, the manga I think is great. I love like a lot of the ideas behind it. Like I'm really big into story themes for like these long running shonen like this, and there's like this idea of like balancing power and responsibility. I feel like that exists in Jujutsu Kaisen, like the freedom that exists like from having power or maybe like being freed by the lack of power, and like how do you balance like that responsibility like in how you like interact with others. There's like a lot of like really cool stuff that exists. which when a chapter like that comes, I guess maybe I can really geek into it. But I think that there's a solid message. I think the characters are fun enough, and it's definitely very cool.
So Mashle is essentially a mix-up of stuff taken from One Punch Man and Harry Potter. They play a little loosey-goosey with the concepts, but if you really need a basic, just bare bones description, I think that's the best way to put it. It is a very funny series, although lately it does seem to be taking a more serious approach. They like to interject the comedy with a lot of serious stuff, like Mash being the son of the like Voldemort of this world, I guess you could say. It's all a bit silly and over the top, so I guess if you might find comedy in that aspect, but for me it went from a very, very goofy, silly series to it kind of starting to take itself a little too seriously. I personally, that's generally how I feel about it. I do enjoy reading it, but it's probably one of the things I look forward to the least. What about you, Bobby?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Mashle, like, I think it's trying to create new scenarios to put the same joke into over and over again. And I'm like not invested enough in like the general cast to like really care. Like especially the last few chapters, I can't even tell you like the names of these guys. I just like recognize the designs.
That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah, like I can't be bothered to know the names of like half these characters at all. It's just kind of like the thing that like I liked about Mashle at the very beginning was that I thought it was just funny, and there are still jokes. It's not like it's lost its sense of humor or comedy. It's like the problem I'm having is that I don't care about it when it's not doing that. And I think it's because it didn't really establish itself in that way. And so I just kind of like am reading through every chapter, and like I'm a person who, if the series feels like I should be taking it seriously, I take it very seriously. But Mashle, I don't feel like I was prepared to care. So I kind of, when it's like trying to have this training arc for like the two guys that was like in the last like few chapters against the guy with like the glasses, I was like, okay, cool. I don't care. One of them is a lolicon and the other is an incel. Like that's my view on them, because that's how this series like showed them. Like yeah, they get their moments, I guess, but there's not much that really feels earned. So I now that they're like trying to like become stronger, it's like, okay, I guess. Sure.
Yeah, with a main character who's essentially Saitama, it does feel like who cares what the other characters are doing, because we know that Mash is just going to deal with all of the problems.
Yeah, exactly.
Himself, by punching them very hard.
It's like when it's being funny, it's still funny. When Mash started to not be strong enough anymore, it's like, because you were comparing it to One Punch Man, it's definitely diverted from that path really hard. Because at this point, Mash is actually trying to get stronger, and he's still comically strong, and it's like, oh, he's growing at like such an insane rate, you know? But like there's all this lore and stuff behind him, and the backstory I thought was pretty funny, where he was like a baby. I did think that was pretty entertaining, but a lot of it is just kind of like, okay, so there's no real threat, because we know that he will become strong enough. Well, we know that he basically is strong enough at this point. We like saw that panel like in this week's chapter where it's like he blew a hole in the wall, and I was like, oh, that was kind of cool. But and then like the invasion is starting or whatever, and so it's like, okay, well, here it is. Mash is just gonna win, right? I mean, he was like kind of he was like I think he was like really tired from the training, so maybe they're gonna like delay it somehow with everyone else being like and then Mash comes in at the last second.
But Bobby, they said Mash has 2 days to wake up, so those 2 days everyone else has to defend until he shows up like Goku.
Of course.
Yep. And then he'll do a big punch, and everyone will be like, "Whoa, he did a big punch!" And then he'll win.
True.
So, I can kind of see where this is going. It's fine. It's not trying to be anything super special. I'm honestly surprised in a way, not to disrespect the work this guy put in. He is doing way better art than I could ever do, but I'm very surprised that this ever got as popular enough to become like one of the mainstays, because I've seen things canceled lately that I'm like, what? This is just as good, if not better, in some ways, you know?
I definitely think that Mashle like had a charm at the very start that like could keep me in. I think the thing that happened was the author was like, oh, I can't just keep rinse and repeating the same joke. How do I evolve this setup so that I can keep the readers interested? And he went an angle that is a lot more generic because it's easier, like, to, I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't say for sure, what his intentions were. But to me, it feels like Mashle has fallen down the line of becoming much more typical, like, battle shonen to its own detriment.
Mm-hmm. Definitely lately, I get the same vibe, get the same feeling. Well, I guess we've already kind of talked about the most recent chapter, but I feel not really anything at all.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's...
Mashle's training's going well. We already knew that was happening because we had a chapter where they were showing that off. I guess they wanted to show the result of that, which is he punched the wall, and it was a big...
he punched that wall. He
really did. He really did punch that wall.
It all worked out in the end.
But, like, first half, that was involving the other people. I was just kind of like... Okay, because it was, like, the one edgy dude, like... the older brother of the one guy, who both have, like, the hair that's like two colors, like they have like the light part in front or whatever. They like did their training, and he's like, you guys suck still, and he's like, okay. So
yeah, I don't really care about that.
Yeah, I don't either. It was like, okay, whatever. Sure.
Sakamoto Days is a battle shonen slice of life split up thing where it stars a old retired assassin who's just trying to live a quiet life with his family. He has a daughter and a wife, and he's very notorious. But since he's retired from being an assassin, he's gotten a little chunky. He's gotten a little pudgy. And so people are like, this guy's not as good as he used to be. But he's absolutely still in his prime, regardless of the weight he put on. And we follow him along with a kind of newbie assassin who is a telepath. And they go on wacky adventures trying to protect Sakamoto and also Shin, the telepath, from being hunted by fellow assassins. And it's pretty cute. It's got some sentimental moments. It's got a lot of really cool action for how goofy the main character looks. I think it's very fun. It's a very fun series. It's not something I come to for plot, really. Whenever they try to get really serious, I kind of like, all right. But then when they get goofy and they're just kind of having fun action stuff, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I definitely think the biggest strength of Sakamoto Days is the action is extremely good, and the chapters are usually very, very light reads. Like, And I don't mean this in like a negative way because I feel like someone could definitely construe my words as being negative, but I do feel as though Sakamoto Days is a little like the chapters are really easy to digest. Like the paneling is like very smooth. The action is always like extremely fast, and there's not too many words to like clog up like clog up the main focus, which the action is definitely like one of the best parts about the series, and the comedy is like fun and lighthearted. I definitely think you just kind of like drip feed the chapters into my eyeballs, and it's just like my experience with Sakamoto Days. It feels very like low investment, moderate return, and so it's a very fun read every week, or every chapter is like very easy to read, and I have fun doing it.
Yeah, I the most recent chapter in particular, the action scene here I thought was really fun. I was when he spun the plane's wheel really fast and then used it like a segue to sprint up and launch himself into the air. Like, it's so silly, it's so goofy, but it's just so fun.
Yeah.
I can't help but just smile while reading it. I think that it really does action just in a fluid way. I really hope this gets an anime someday. I would love to watch it in motion.
Oh yeah.
How do you feel about like the current arc where they're on the like Greed Island?
Oh yeah. So they're trying to go to the assassin school, and this is like the precursor, right? This is like the test to get into the assassin school. I definitely like most of the new characters that have been introduced, and so far it's been cool. I mean, it's been a lot less. You described it as a slice of life, and I was thinking to myself, the last few chapters have not really like felt that way. Yeah, it did. It's yeah. I mean, I kind of like the direction. Like, I don't really care where the series goes. It hasn't lost like what its identity is, and it's just kind of like trying to progress like from there, like pretty naturally. So I think I'm cool with it. I don't have like extremely strong feelings. But yeah, I mean, I like most of the new characters. That like the one girl that was introduced, like not the yandere girl, the other one who's like what is it? Like her aunt is like that one like great assassin or whatever. I like her. So I'm vibing. Here's is vibing. How's your take?
Yeah, I don't know, just having fun. Just reading it and having a good time. I can't complain too much. It's never something I'm like itching to read. Like, I don't go into Shonen Jump every Sunday and I'm like, ooh, gotta get the new Sakamoto Days, but I'm never like not happy with the chapter. The plain part of this arc though was a bit slow for me.
Mm-hmm.
But when they crashed and everything was flowing, I was having a good time. I really like this arc as well.
World that they live in has like these monsters called Choujins, essentially, that not everyone is a Choujin. It's not like My Hero Academia where it's like a normal thing. It's normal enough that if someone is a Choujin, you're just like, oh shit, dude, that's crazy. Like, but essentially there are like these monster things that have powers, and the main character is set up with this like other kid who's his friend, and so the main character is like, I don't really have any individual aspects to myself. I just kind of like am a follower. I like don't have any like real aspirations or anything. And he and his friend end up in this precarious scenario. They're both injected with these shots that are supposed to turn you into a Choujin, and the main character develops powers like in that moment and becomes a vulture, which is like symbolic because vultures are not predators. They're scavengers. So it's kind of like representing the idea that he is the Vulture represents the idea that the main character doesn't have like dreams, and he doesn't drive himself through his own will. He's kind of just following like other people and taking their scraps, is what they were describing as. And it's basically him just trying to like use his powers, develop them so that he can try and help people as like his new motivating goal. That would be like the summer. That's the synopsis. I mean, so what? I mean, how do you feel about the series as a whole? Is, I guess, what I'll ask, because I know what I want to.
I was fairly bored for a little bit towards the beginning. Not like in a sense where I was like, I think it's bad, but I at the time, like the mindset when I first read it, I was reading so much at the time. I was swapping between series. I wasn't caught up on everything. And so like it just like was unfortunately in a position where I had just gotten done reading a bunch of stuff, and I was like, well, I might as well do this too. It's only like one chapter, and then, you know, I didn't really recover from that right away. So the like next couple of weeks I was like, yeah, no, whatever this is. Like it's made by the Tokyo Ghoul guy, right? Like that's, you know, whatever this is. But as time went on and we got more like of the situations much more concrete, I think it's become something I look forward to whenever it pops up. This is one of the monthly series, so we don't get it that often. But the you know, whenever it does come up with a chapter, I really like it.
Yeah, I think having binged it, I mean, I had to read a lot for this podcast, but I was trying to stay as active as I could. I was still in the brunt of it, so it's not like I like got off something and was like, okay, back on the grind. My mindset was more like, all right, here we go. We're in the home stretch. So I kept on reading. I've read Choujin X, and I would say that overall, I really enjoy it. Like, I think that it's, I think the main character has like, he's interesting enough. You typically see a lot of shonen in which it's like his motivation is like a little generic. You don't see too many characters, I think, start off with like, I have zero aspirations, I have zero dreams. Like usually in these Shonen Jump series, it's like there's like some tragic backstory that forces them into like some scenario where they're like, I need to be strong, or I have aspirations to like become like the top dog, you know, in like the society in this world. In Choujin X, the main character is just kind of like, I don't really know what I want to do, but this seems good, I guess. It's definitely really dark, really edgy, and I'm all for it. I don't really feel like it gets like so edgy that it's like kind of off-putting or comical. I think that it's like just the right amount of edge to be like dark and gritty, but like still pretty cool.
There was that one, I think it was last chapter, not the most recent one, where, oh no, it was two chapters ago, where we see the like death scene of that one character.
Yeah.
That was very vivid, very like brutal for like, we hadn't seen really anything that rough in this series yet. Like we've seen some stuff that's like, oh, that's pretty messed up imagery, but that one couple panels I was like, whoa, that was uncomfortable to look at.
Yeah, I'm kind of about it. Like I feel like it's, yeah, I definitely think that like it's, the imagery of Choujin X is really good. Like it's a monthly series, so the chapters are long, but the chapters do not feel that long, to me at least.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Do you know how he does his art? Because it looks so detailed, the backgrounds and stuff.
Yeah, I can't say I know like how he does the art. You mean like, does he like do it by hand or like on a computer, or like what do you mean?
Yeah, there was one panel that made me like kind of do a double take where if I think about it, if I'll put it on screen right now, there's like a lot of like noise that I think is supposed to be like grass off to the side of the panel.
And is this in the most recent chapter, or?
Yeah, it looks like it's like too neat for it to be hand drawn. But I don't know. This guy's very good at what he does. I don't know if he could be capable of doing something like that, but I wonder if he not cuts corners, because it still looks incredible, but like I wonder if he takes some shortcuts some places to make it look more realistic backgrounds wise, and he can focus more on the character designs, because I would have to say that most of the, like 90% of the time it looks incredible, all the characters.
I do know that it's not totally uncommonplace for some manga authors to like take photos of locations and then trace over them so that they have like the scenery that they want, or like slightly adjust it so that it fits their what they need. I definitely think, like, regardless of if he does that or not, he's an incredible artist, because there's definitely some stuff that's impossible to do in that way. But I wouldn't be surprised if he does like utilize like techniques like that. Because I definitely know what you mean. Like some of the rendering on the art, like in terms of like the not the color, because obviously manga's black and white, but like the grayscale, like the way it like radiance and like turns lighter and darker in some certain things, and like the amount of like just dots you kind of have to put in to like to have the texture kind of appear for a lot of this stuff. It's like very, very well rendered. It's like, yeah. Wow.
Very good. Most recent chapter I think is very good.
Oh yeah.
The stuff with main character, I don't know his name for some reason. We're reading a lot of manga. Main character with covered eye.
His name is Tokyo,
bro.
Not Tokyo, like the city. Tokyo,
yeah.
Like
right. His like what I got from what we had at the very end was like he has like potential to do like anything he would want, but he just doesn't want to do anything. He like has no ambition or drive, like what you were saying earlier, and like that basically hinders him from being who he could be. And like the friend sees that, like that's what the vibe I got from their whole like arm wrestle match in the flashback. Yeah, I got the vibe that he's like envious that like he just doesn't care, because I think that the best friend is like he cares a lot about a lot of things, and I feel like it looks to me like he's always been good at stuff, but maybe he just doesn't understand why somebody else who might have the potential to do whatever he wants is just not doing anything. That might be like the whole vibe. I'm not sure. I'm interested to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I'm not, because it's still a little, his intentions, he doesn't really talk right now. He's just kind of like fighting, and so we don't know 100% like where his intention is coming from. But the arm wrestle is definitely extremely telling in a lot of ways, where it's like Tokyo has like so little like confidence in himself, because he was saying like, there's no point, I'm not gonna win, and he was right, he didn't win. But Azuma clearly recognized that he was a lot more difficult than an opponent, despite the fact that he like essentially put no effort in and he didn't believe in himself, which I think to him felt like really threatening, because I think he kind of like tries to kind of be top dog. He kind of tries to like hold that like position, and to see like this guy get so close with zero effort, it was, I don't know if this is the case, but I'm sure their friendship was pretty genuine. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was like some internal feeling Azuma might have had, where it was like that whole like keep your friends close and your enemies closer type of thing, But yeah, I think the relationship seems pretty complex between them, and I am totally here for that. I think it's really cool. I'm really excited for the next chapter, actually.
Yeah, no, this last chapter was very good. I've never been like like disappointed, but this last one in particular was like, whoa, let's make this a weekly, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to find the chapter for this.
Why is that?
I don't remember what happened.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie, neither do I, dude.
Oh wait, it was like, what was it? The one guy saved him, right? Or is that?
Yeah, that's it. The blonde character.
His hair might be white. I don't even know if he's blonde. He might be, actually. I have no idea.
Not sure.
Oh no. Ichikawa hair is his hair is white, so the other guy's probably blonde because they wouldn't just do that, right?
Right. He's controlling the kaiju suit, and he's like, more power. I can handle it. And they're like, he can't handle it, but he's still going. Whoa. And the other guy shows up and
Yeah, Iharu
saves him.
The guy with like the not pompadour. His hair is like
big hair. He's got big hair.
Yeah.
Overall, if you asked me before the last like 20 chapters, maybe less. The last like I don't know, this last arc. If you asked me before then, I'd say this series is really fun and I look forward to every chapter. Whatever's been happening lately, I honestly couldn't care less about what's going on, if I'm gonna be entirely honest with you.
Yeah, I think like the past couple chapters I enjoyed more than the majority of this arc so far. But I think the reason is because I kind of like it when the series is about the characters and like their feelings and motivations rather than them dealing with the kaiju. Like I feel like Kaiju No.8 is at its strongest when it's not talking about the kaiju.
Yeah. There is I guess we should talk about like what this series is about. So Kaiju No.8, there's a world with it's an anime world with there's monsters, shocker. And there's like task forces in like place to take care of them, kind of like a military division, but instead of like a normal military, it's like a squad of elites that are able to just rampage and kill these giant monsters like it's no big deal. And our main character is a part of like a cleanup crew that just cleans up the corpses of these monsters. And I like when I started this series, I thought that was so sick. Like getting to follow stuff like that was very nice for world building. And essentially, in this world full of monsters, main character who's like he wanted to be like a part of the defense force, but didn't work out. He got old. He's kind of like aging, and he kind of gave up on that dream. So he became a waste monster corpse cleaner upper. He meets this young kid who joins his cleanup crew, and he's training to become a part of it, and it kind of sparks his old dream back into him, and he goes for it, and he does succeed, but he in the process of everything he gets we really don't know like why or how it happened yet, do we? But he gets a small little kaiju that flies into his mouth, forces him to eat him, and now he can transform into like a humanoid, normal sized monster that gives him a lot of powers, which does help him in like all the defense force stuff when that does come up. But overall, like we said earlier, lately haven't been really feeling it. But if you asked me at the start of it, I had a lot of high hopes, and I really hope that they kind of bring it back to what I enjoyed at the beginning.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, when it's about his name is like Kafka Hibino. When it's about him kind of trying to achieve like because his goal right now, his childhood friend, she's like one of the top people in the defense force, and so he's trying to be able to like be on that same level. Because the reason this was his old dream was because they made a promise to each other when they were kids that they would kind of be there, and he saw her like achieve that dream, and he was like, I want to do that too. So he kind of like, that's why he was like trying to push himself, and because of the kaiju power, now he's kind of getting that position. And I almost want to say that it's because he grew too fast, honestly, that I feel like I'm enjoying this part of the series less.
Yeah. I completely forgot about the female, like, I guess, love interest.
Yeah, like I was really invested into his character, like, and obviously his name is like Kafka, reference to Franz Kafka, Metamorphosis. Basically, like the story, like Metamorphosis is like, it's like some, what is it, novella, vignette? I don't know what the exact term is, but it's about some guy who becomes like this, basically this big bug is how it's usually depicted as. And he like kind of lives his life, and as he becomes less human and more bug-like, his family starts to like hate him more. Like they're taking care of him, but he's seen less as a human and more of a monster, and it's kind of trying to blur the lines of like, are you a person or are you a freak? And that's what he's based off of, and I get the idea. I just feel like he's almost grown a little too fast, because the way the story started was it was very centered around this old guy trying to achieve his old dream, and I feel like at this point, because of what's recently occurred, like in the previous arc, like I feel like he's like kind of achieved that. If not, he's like very, very close, and I don't really care about like the other characters as much. But I mean, I said earlier, like the most recent like 3 chapters have been better than the majority of the arc, but it's still not how excited I was about the series like near the beginning. So yeah, like the most recent chapter, it's Ichikawa Reno is like he's like the kid who is helped Kafka like be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like move up, from the cleanup crew, and Kafka like was like, yeah, we'll do it together. And he apparently has a really high affinity for like the suit that like is imbued with kaiju power, and so he like is trying his best to like use that kaiju suit. And I think it's because Kafka like became so strong as Kaiju No.8 that he's trying to like help him, because he knows like how dangerous it is for his friends. So he's like, oh, I need to carry some of the burden too, which ironically he's pushing himself too far. So Iharu, the like guy who he was with in the squadron, he is now trying to save him, because Reno is like not strong enough to like handle the suit, basically.
But who will save him?
We
need a chain. We need the next chapter to be somebody running in to save him.
Right.
It will just be a chain of people till they get to the end.
Maybe the message is that we all stand together and we all have a place and a purpose.
They should do an anime. They should do a manga on the story where you turn into a bug.
Now this one I definitely need to like remember what happened last chapter. It happened so long ago.
The last chapter, he like punched the guy a few times.
One punch man. Yeah, last chapter he punched the guy.
You punched the guy. They're like doing that big fight right now. Saitama and the like.
His name's not Garo, right?
It is Garo.
It is
Garo. Yes. Saitama and Garo are fighting, and Garo punched him in. He's like unintentionally helping citizens with the destruction that Saitama and his fight are causing.
Right.
Like, he punched Saitama through a building, and there were people trapped in a bunker underneath the building's rubble. And the punch through the building freed him, and then he punched Saitama into a volcano that was erupting, and it diverted lava away from the town that was like gonna be engulfed. Very silly One Punch Man humor.
Yeah. Because Garo is like, he wants to be a villain, but like he still cares about people.
Yeah, and like Saitama is just kind of like, he's kind of egging him on, but he's trying to appeal to him outside of, the fight, but he's still fighting, I guess. So I don't know. I like it. I think this is one of those ones like Jujutsu Kaisen that's just so absurdly popular that it's hard to talk about it, because it's already been said,
Yeah.
But basic premise, to just get it out of the way, One Punch Man is about a guy who became super strong, too strong. Now nobody can stand up against him, and he's a hero. There's monsters in this anime world, and the Hero Association is kind of a really corrupt, really badly structured thing that Saitama's comically making his way up. He has a sidekick who's placed better than him because he looks cooler, pretty much. And it's I'd say it's like 70% comedy and 30% really cool stuff. And the art is done by do you know the name of the artist of this?
I think it's Yusuke Murata.
That sounds right. And the story is done by One. He made a webcomic of this, and then it is being adapted by the artist to look like, I guess, what most people would consider like good. And it is very good, but I like One's original artwork as well. It's just not as flashy. It's not as detailed.
Yeah.
But it's very good.
Yeah. I definitely this chapter, low-key, been a really long time coming, because we met Garo like 80 chapters ago. Maybe even more than that at this point. I don't even... Well, we definitely met him way longer, but this arc started like 80 or something chapters ago. Yeah, and so we're finally here. We're finally at the conclusion, or getting close at least. You never know. One Punch Man, because there are those chapters that are like 20 pages that like take up like 2 seconds of time, where it's like some like giant thing is colliding into the earth. You know what I'm talking about? But so who knows how many more chapters we actually have to go? But it feels like we're starting to wrap up. Really cool. I do like Garo. I think he has like a cool dynamic with kind of how he is. I mean, that's kind of like how a lot of the characters are, in that it's like it's about their like motivation to like be a hero. Whereas it's funny how like Saitama's just like, obviously he's like the ultimate character. He's the main character because it's like, oh man, being a hero is like kind of boring, like too easy.
But he still does it though.
Yeah, no, I mean he does it because it's like it's not hard for him to do, but he takes pleasure in like the simple things in life, because he accomplished anything he set his mind to, and that made life too easy.
It's true. It's very good. I'll always be a fan of One's work. He also did Mob Psycho, and I've never been unhappy with a series he's done. It's very fun.
Yeah, definitely solid. Never a disappointment.
Have you seen season 2 of the anime? I have not. I was told not to watch it, and I listened like...
Yeah, so the anime season 1 was done by Studio Madhouse, who are incredible. They're like they have extremely like strong legacy behind their studio. They've like done movies like Red Line. They did the Hunter x Hunter anime. They've done like stuff like Death Note. They're like super good at what they do. Action is one thing they're extremely good at. And then but they're also notorious for not doing second seasons of any of the works that they pick up for some reason. It's like I can count on one hand out of their decades of anime industry work. I can count on one hand the number of sequel anime that they've created. And so the second season of One Punch Man went to JC staff, who are typically known for shows that are more slice of life. I think one of the most prominent Shonen Jump series that they took on was Food Wars, it's a non-battle shonen, which means that it's not about fighting. So it's not their forte, but it's where they went, and a lot of people were not happy with the animation change of One Punch Man season 2.
Yeah, I heard bad things, but I'm sure like the story's all intact and stuff like that, and I'm sure like it's fine. It's like not up to snuff of like what came before.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure if they did the whole thing, it would be totally fine. There wouldn't even be a problem. But yeah, no, I very much like this series. I'm looking forward to whenever they throw out a chapter, because this one isn't scheduled.
Yeah,
this one just comes out when it feels like.
Yeah, because it's like it's almost monthly, but it's almost bi-weekly. It just comes out whenever it wants.
Yeah, it depends on a lot of factors, I guess.
You feel pretty strongly about this, yeah?
I like this one. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a big fan of this one. It's about a boy, a young boy who I guess he's a young man. He is absurdly strong for a normal human, and that's because he loves Shonen Jump and all the manga protagonists that comes with it. And so he trained like them to become able to defeat his enemies in one punch. And, it's essentially, it sounds like the same formula, except, he's like absurdly goofy in a different way, where he's like, to be a masochist when you're like you're into, like, you're like happy about pain to yourself. He's like in fights just looks just decimated. Like he looks rough and he's just grinning with blood all over his face, and he just loves the fight. He's this main character, he's struggling to find work because all he focused on was being able to punch good and be super strong, and everywhere he goes he applies to like dojos and other jobs, and he like breaks everything. He makes whole craters in the walls, and they're like, we don't want you here, get out. And so he stumbles. I remember he's wishing he had a job where he could protect some girl that is running away. He's like, wouldn't it be nice, like the manga, for like a girl to come running by being chased by a bunch of dudes and I protect her? And that exact thing happens. But it turns out she is a Yakuza boss for, wouldn't you guess, this world's version of monsters, Ayashimon. They're hidden among people. They don't tend to interact with humans. And when they do, it's kind of behind the scenes. You don't know that they're monsters. They can disguise themselves as humans. And she needs help trying to regain power for her faction, and so she basically takes in the main character as her number one flunky, and they together, he gets to fight a lot of dudes and she gets to rise up in the ranks, and that is essentially the story of it so far.
Yeah, I
love it. I love it.
I think it's pretty solid. I like in the most recent chapter, I had to do a double take because like the first few pages like really confused me.
I thought when reading it that it was canceled. I thought that it got canceled, and this was a rushed final chapter where the mangaka is complaining about not being able to finish it the way he wants. It was a meta. They were talking about it, and I was like, it was just a manga studio, and I was like, what the hell is happening? Please don't be canceled. I like this one. And it wasn't. It's like in his head. It's like that's his inner thoughts as a manga studio.
Yeah, he's obsessed with tons of specifically like pretty old manga because he had an abusive father and his escape was to just read the old copies of Jump he had. So he's really into like Fist of the North Star and like JoJo's Part 3 and like stuff from like that era.
Dragon Ball as well.
Yeah. He's reading all the new Jump though, so maybe he's gonna be inspired by that too. But I thought it was really cool how he was like saying before, because the reason he had so much fun in like all of his fights was because he was like, this is it. This is like where I become a true manga protagonist. Because he was so excited because what he perceived as the pattern in shonen manga was they fight someone who beats them, who is like stronger, and the protagonist will always come back and win and save the day. But I thought that this current chapter, like this week's chapter, was pretty cool because he got beaten and bloodied, and he realized like it's not about the fact that they come back and win. It's about why they come back and win. It's about the people around you, and it's like when you're fighting for someone else, you become stronger, you know? And I thought that was like a cool, like kind of, it's obviously kind of a generic message, but the framing of it is like a lot more meta than like a lot of other shonen protagonists, you know? And I think it's really cool because it's I think when people like read fiction, a lot of times they kind of miss the point. I think a lot of times, and I think Ayashimon is really cool because it's kind of showing this guy who, you know, missed the point. He used shonen manga as like an escape, but it's like through his life experiences that he realizes that the manga he read was not necessarily going to act as like a blueprint for his life. It's more so acting as like it's not about the tangible occurrences that happen. It's not about the pattern that happens. He doesn't have to follow the same pattern. He just has to recognize the lessons that you can learn through those manga, and it's through learning those lessons that like he hasn't won yet, but supposedly this is like the friendship power up he needs, you know? This is like the lesson that he's learned.
Yeah. Do you think this is going to last much longer? Because as much as I like it, I have a feeling like it doesn't have much longer. Like, I think that it feels like the author had a story in mind, and this wasn't a long-running story in his head, and he's just going to it. Because it feels like they're going to take over the next couple places, and that's going to be it. There's going to be big fights, and that's over.
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know how popular Ayashimon is.
I'm like its biggest fan right now.
I definitely enjoy it. I think it's cool. Like, I feel like there's a lot that they can go through, but at the same time, I know what you mean, because they set up, like, the whole politics of, like, their world, and they're just kind of breezing through like
they're
all
blasting
the factions
through it.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, I don't know if there's like a bigger world at hand here. It definitely feels like it doesn't have much else it can go to, but
I mean, I'd be fine. I'd rather a short and sweet series to one that drags on and then gets canceled.
Yeah, I definitely won't complain if it gets more. Like, if it just keeps on going, I'm not gonna complain because hopefully it'll be good. But I would prefer a more cohesive vision than something that just pulls a death note and keeps going for no reason. Okay, Doron Dororon. What is there to say? I think Shonen Jump's website has the best description. Let's read it. A wannabe monster slayer gets his chance when he meets a strange being. Period. A wannabe monster slayer gets his chance when he meets a strange being. Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm sure you could say that about almost everything. You could replace, I mean, strange being. You could say Rukia from Bleach is a strange being. You could say Otan from Yu Yu Hakusho is a strange being. You could say that about pretty much any urban fantasy, like, kind of series, you know, even Choujin X, Ayashimon, Undead Unluck.
The only thing left, like, on our wheel right now, like, obviously me and Roboco and Blue Box are not fitting that bill, but, like, the only thing left on our wheel that, like, I don't think fits that bill out of everything here is One Piece and Spy X Family. I think everything else you could slap that title onto and you'd be like, yeah, okay. You know, you could slap that description onto and you'd be like, all right, I guess, yeah, that is what happens.
Yeah, I'm personally not a huge fan of Doron Dororon. I don't hate reading the chapters. I don't hate the chapters. I just don't like the series is the best way I can describe it. Like, I think that there are a lot of things this manga does extremely well. Like, I think the flow of, like, the chapters is incredible. Like, I think the way the panels move from, like, panel to panel, like, the interactions are, like, simple and crisp, and I think the art is, for the most part, fantastic. I don't like how a couple of the characters look, but the art is undeniably extremely clean. Everything, like the poses and the framing, everything reads, like, extremely well. And I think all those aspects are, like, really good. Like, I think the technical aspects of, like, this manga are really good. I just don't care about, like, pretty much anything that's, like, occurring, to be, like, perfectly honest. But I don't know. I like the main character. It's like, it's kind of like Ayashimon, right? It's like he's like, it's a little different because his mom was saying, like, you're not good at anything else other than, like, being strong, so you should like fight these monster things for, like, these people, right? The Mononoke, you need to, like, fight the Mononoke, and then he finds one Mononoke that's, like, really nice, and he's, like, trying to stop the other Mononoke because that Mononoke, like, likes humans or something. Kusanagi is his name. He's kind of cute. He's pretty cute. And they, like, because the main character has no affinity for, like, the spiritual energy that's, like, in the world, him and Kusanagi, like, Kusanagi can become, like, a weapon that is imbued with tons of spiritual energy. So together they're very strong, and individually they're very weak.
Yep.
Yeah. There's not too much to say because what happens is very typical.
Yeah. Most recent chapter, Kusanagi fell for the trap of an old Mononoke friend, and he's gonna die, but Dora's there to save him, and they work together, and they beat him up, and now a fight's happening. So, I don't know. I'm reading it. It's not bad, but it's not, like, great either. It's there.
I mean, if you want to try and be deep, it's like Kusanagi right now is learning that some people are not your real friend, and some people are your real friend. And now he's like, I'm gonna fight the person who's not my real friend because they hurt me, and I will fight alongside my real friend because he's epic and I like him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure Kusanagi will make great plushies one day.
Okay, so Blue Exorcist is a series about the son of Satan who is raised by a priest. Very it's not unheard of. It's not an unheard of type of thing, but pretty cool regardless. Essentially what happens is Rin Okumura, the main character, Satan essentially, like this, he's signified by like these blue flames, hence, blue in the title, Blue Exorcist. But Satan kills like a bunch of priests. The priest who raised Rin and his brother Yukio, who are twins, the person who raised them ends up being killed by Satan, and so Rin is essentially trying to take revenge on Satan, his biological father, for killing his kind of like his true father in a sense, Shiro. And so he's trying to train up, become an exorcist, so that he can accomplish the goal of killing Satan once and for all. And so he goes to exorcist school, he meets a bunch of people. This series has been around for like over a decade at this point, I think. It's a monthly series, and the author just got off of what was almost a year-long break, I think, right?
I think it was a year.
Yeah, it was a year, yeah. I personally am a huge fan of this series. I think that, like, the beginning starts pretty generic, very typical battle shonen. It's not really that special, but I genuinely feel that with every passing arc, the series just continues to become better. And, like, frankly, I think this might be, like, cleanly one of my favorite things that, like, I'm reading, like, at all. I think that, like, Blue Exorcists has fantastic characters. I think one of the things that are kind of a weakness with a lot of series that we were talking about before is that the premise is really cool, like in Kaiju No.8 or in Mashle. I think the premise is really cool, but the series kind of loses its steam once you can't afford to focus on the main characters as much as you were before. I think Blue Exorcist cast is so strongly well-rounded that, like, the foundation for every arc, as the characters develop, the series, like, only continues to get better. And I think that, like, the poor anime adaptation has really plagued the impression a lot of people have on Blue Exorcist, because I think a lot of people, like, are not able to just physically, like, see what the series is, which I think is, like, a fantastic cast of characters and relationships that are very deep, complex, and, like, I just am a really big fan. And this is, like, the big arc, it seems like. The most recent chapter, like, the past couple chapters, technically, like, it seems like the incarnation of Satan is here. So this could be the ending, or the main characters are all gonna lose and they're gonna have to, like, recoup and, like, try again. But either way, yeah, like, most recent chapter, really cool. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I love this. Maybe not as much as you do, but pretty damn near close. I had asked you, because I was looking for more things to read, if this was something I should read, and you were like, sure, I guess. And I start reading it, and it's, like, slowly but surely becomes, like, one of my favorite things I'm reading. And I'm like, Bobby, this is amazing. And then you started to get caught up again as well. And it was, like, several months of you and me reading it back and forth and, like, talking about it constantly. I think it's incredible. I think it's definitely one of the best things I'm reading now as well. I think it's heavily overlooked. I've talked to several other people. They're like, nah, not interested. And it's just because they've seen the anime, and it's like, well, that's apparently, I haven't seen it myself, but according to several people, it's, like, next to nothing. It's mid. And so I'm like, man, I wish this series was just a little bit more popular because it gets really good.
Yeah, because it's the problem is like two things with the anime. One, the first like season of the anime has a anime only ending, which is not good. They just kind of are like, yeah, this is the gate with Satan, and then Rin's like, okay, I'm gonna kill it. So he destroys the gate and kills Satan in the process, and it's like, oh, we did it, we won. Which is really strange because the anime continues on the second season, which is manga canon again, as if nothing happened. And it's like, what? I thought we won already. What happened?
Awesome.
Yeah, it's awful. It doesn't make any sense. If you're an anime only watcher, like it literally makes no sense. And I think the other thing is that the stuff that happens before that is what I was saying before. It's just kind of like okay, like it's just decent shonen. It's like good, and I don't think it's enough to make a lot of people feel compelled to keep on going, especially because they kind of put a fake lid on the series. They're just like, oh yeah, it's done now. It's like that. No, it's not.
No, it's not. It's not even close.
Like all the new characters that get introduced, like the development for the character, like Lightning. I love Lightning. I think he's awesome. I think the development that occurs with so many characters is so lost. Like the things that happen with like Izumo, Yukio, Shima, Bon, like, and Rin, of course. I think the development is amazing, and I think the way the relationships are written is so genuine and realistic. I think one of the greatest things about Blue Exorcist is that it genuinely feels like a lot of the interactions are extremely genuine. Like it's one of the most rewarding things to be paying attention to, because like there's a lot of series where it's like you're like paying attention to the details and it really takes you out of the experience because you like start questioning like, why would the author like write something like this? Like, is this gonna be relevant? I hope. Like, I don't know. But in Blue Exorcist, like the reason I think it scales so well is because it's, as you keep reading, it becomes more apparent that the vision for how these characters are supposed to be, like who they are, is extremely solid. Like there's small interactions that occur. Like I think one of my favorite ones is definitely when, and you've mentioned this too, Nick, when they all find out that Rin is the son of Satan, or like that he has like demon powers, that he's like, they kind of reject him, you know? They don't want to sit next to him on the bus or anything. He's just kind of like being like ostracized a little bit. But Izumo is the one person who like is willing to tolerate him, like put up with him. And when we find out the nature of her backstory, it's just like, holy shit. Of course that like that interaction happened, you know? And there's so many small things with like just Yukio in general. The line of like his character arc is like absolutely ridiculous. Like I've never seen a relationship between two siblings in a manga be so authentic and genuine like as I have between like Rin and Yukio. And I'm not just saying that because like, oh, like they have like that brotherly love. Like I love One Piece, I love Luffy, I love Ace, and I'm sure relationships like that exist. But like the tension that exists between Rin and Yukio because of like their childhoods and like the way that they're treated differently, like makes so much of a compelling like relationship to see between those two. And like that's how like a lot of the relationships in Blue Exorcist are. They're very nuanced and interesting, and I think a lot of the twists between like how the characters are always really compelling, and it's always cool because it always explains a lot. And so that's why it's like if you read Blue Exorcist and you're paying attention to like the details, the series is like very rewarding because it's hardly even foreshadowing. It's more so just like all bolstering the characters. And it's just I think when you have a solid foundation like that, like it's very hard to do anything but continue to be better, as I've like kind of been saying. Like it just, every arc of the series to me just becomes more fun to read. It's like it's awesome.
Yeah, it's a wonderful series. Definitely one of the best that's in there now, and I think it needs more recognition.
Definitely. I think this probably needs the least introduction of anything. If you just
Yeah,
are
like
following the general
currently,
anime space.
yeah, like, but like, what if in like 10 years someone finds this video? Like, currently, right now, as of recording, this is getting an anime, and it is very, very popular. Um, it is following the life of three people who all come from like kind of like a double life. The father is a spy, the mother is an assassin, and the child is a telepath. And none of the mother and father don't know any of the other two's secrets, but the telepath is able to read the minds of the other two and knows both. Very cool premise, very cool concept, very sweet at a lot of times. It's very nice, very great.
Yeah, the comedy is fantastic, and it's extremely wholesome too. Very, very good series. We've been on this for like a while, but this is definitely one of the most like consistently good series I think that's in Jump. Like, it's very rare when I'm being disappointed by Spy X Family. If ever, really, to be honest. But yeah, the premise is really cool. We actually just in the recent chapters, like, we just got off of like a lot of like Lloyd backstory, which is like really cool.
Yeah, the stuff with Lloyd before, I guess, the war that caused all this conflict that he is being a spy for.
Yeah.
That it was honestly phenomenal. I thought those last couple chapters were very, very good, especially the most recent one.
Yeah, no, it's been really good. Like, I thought it was really cool how, like, because honestly, if I almost kind of forgot like why like he wanted to become a spy in the first place a little bit, but this like really, because the reason he wanted to become a spy, right, was he wanted to like not protect children, right, or like not specifically that. It was like he wanted to make a world with peace so that like children don't have to grow up in like the way that he did effectively, like based on this backstory, you know, where it's like he's being forced into this war-stricken place. And I thought like the setup was amazing because he just had a normal group of friends, and there was like some sense of normalcy. There's a little bit of like a classism problem, I think, that was being shown, but like, yeah, just seeing like where Lloyd is coming from is like really cool because we love this character at this point. Like, he's awesome, and so just like seeing any more of like what is the thing that shaped him to be who he is, I think is really cool to see.
Yeah, and I'm excited for like the end, whenever that will be. When, we have to learn his true name, right? Like, that has to be.
Yeah.
That. I feel like we'd be let down on just a little bit. It's still a very good series, but I feel
They're
like
teasing us with those black boxes, man. The black boxes and the text bubbles.
Yeah, I feel like when everything's out on the table, and like Yor knows about Lloyd and Lloyd knows about Yor, they'll get to a point where they are like, you know what, my fake relationship with you, I want it to be real, and also I they trust each other completely, and Yor will say Lloyd's name. She'll be like, Lloyd, and then I could just see it in my brain. My gears are turning. He's just gonna say a different name, and he corrects her, and she's like, what? And he's like, says it again. He's like, that's my name. And he's like, that's who I am. I'm like, I can see it. I feel it. I know it's gonna happen. You give me 10 shekels when it does happen. But yeah, no, I'm a big fan of the series, both anime and manga. Would recommend the manga to anyone who likes the anime.
Yeah. I mean, the anime adaptation, I think, in some ways, is even superior to the manga, which is crazy because it's not that the manga has really any weaknesses. I think like this is the most like well-rounded series that's in Jump. I think it has the fewest flaws, and I think that in itself is very incredible because like there are tons of series that are really good, like their peaks are high, but their flaws are kind of apparent. I don't really find myself thinking that Spy X Family has like really any flaws, which is pretty incredible. Like just the consistency that this like holds itself to is a lot more difficult to accomplish than like one good moment, you know?
Mm-hmm. My Hero Academia Vigilantes. Take what you have in My Hero and throw it out the window, because this is the best thing in that universe. They got the same stuff. They got quirks. They got villains. But here, it's done a little bit. It's done a little bit better.
Ooh, hot takes, hot takes.
Follow a nice good boy Koichi. And he has a pretty cool power called Slide and Glide. Basically, if he touches 3 or more points of his body to the ground, he loses all traction. He's able to slide around. It's pretty cool. It's a lot more slice of lifey than standard My Hero. It I feel is a lot more focused. And I think it does falter a little bit, and I'm sure Bobby will have something to say about that in particular, because I was following. This is one of the things that he had to get caught up on for this, and I was following his progress very, very close because I love this series. But I think overall, it is wonderful. It is great. The last chapter left me itching for more. It just stinks that the next chapter that I'm waiting for is the last chapter that's going to be published.
Yep.
But it is very good. I recommend it to anyone who thinks they like My Hero, because you don't even know what the best part of My Hero is. And I'm going to hand it over to Bobby to give his position on this, because I am clearly very biased.
I definitely think Vigilantes has a lot of strengths over the original My Hero Academia. I think the biggest weaknesses of Vigilantes is particularly one arc, kind of two. I think that there's a lot of progress. There's a lot of setup that occurs that I think feels pretty forced, and I have suspicions this is because it's trying to time things to tie into the weekly running My Hero Academia. There's just a lot of characters who feel like they're introduced like for pretty pointless reasons, but they're cool characters from My Hero Academia. So I'm kind of invested in that, but if I'm looking at the series like at its own right, it's kind of like whatever. But I'm not gonna fault it too bad, because I feel like if you're reading Vigilantes, you're probably reading like the original My Hero anyway. Another thing, like, I definitely feel as though the low points of Vigilantes are still higher than the low points in My Hero Academia. And I definitely think the high points in Vigilantes are lower than the highest points of the original My Hero as well. It's definitely very solid, though. I do think that a lot of the problems that have been springing up in the current chapters, I think My Hero Academia has been losing a lot of steam in like this final arc, and I think that's a pretty common opinion among a lot of the fans. But Vigilantes is a much more consistent series on the whole. It's a lot more. I think it's because they don't blast the scale up very high. I know a very common complaint is in My Hero Academia, they kind of like have a lot of like big moments and then they reset back to normalcy, and that reset back to normalcy is just very difficult for a lot of people to get into, because it's, you know, they're not used to, they don't want to make negative progress essentially in the scale of the world. But Vigilantes always stays very grounded, and it's very focused on a tight cast of characters, which I also think is a flaw with normal My Hero Academia. I think it spread itself a little bit too thin, and it causes the pacing to get very wonky. But yeah, Vigilantes is pretty good. I think if you like My Hero at all, or like, you should definitely give this a look, because there's a lot of lore that exists in Vigilantes that you won't get about relevant characters. Like Aizawa has a very major character in Vigilantes, and it's a prequel technically, chronologically to the series for the most part. So like, there's a lot of like stuff that you'll see that like you just won't get in the original My Hero, and I think it's definitely worth the time if you want to put your time into it.
Mm-hmm. It's set, I believe, 5 years before the main series.
Yeah, but the current chapter though is taking place.
Yeah, it is roughly at the same time.
We're not too sure exactly, but our theory right now is that as the series ends, because the last chapter that happened, the final panel was like Koichi in New York, and he's about to take off somewhere. We don't know where. There's still one more chapter, so it might just be something for the final chapter that's coming out in a few days. However, we do think that maybe Koichi's gonna join the main series, My Hero Academia. If you've played like Super Smash Bros. Brawl, maybe he's gonna be the Sonic in the Taboo fight. Who knows?
Let's go.
That's the hope, but we'll see.
If my boy shows up in My Hero proper, that'll be so hype. But yeah, no, there's not much more to say there.
Yeah, the series is wrapping up. The big conflict that occurred. Pop, the girl character, the main girl, I definitely do not like how she was being handled as a character, like the past couple arcs, because she just randomly like had a heel turn. She like became evil, but it wasn't like anything relevant to her own character. They tried to like give her development, but I felt like it was done very poorly, and that kind of spurred on like this final like set of like this final arc. But she's okay now. She's saved, so that's all like over with, and you know, hoping the final chapter just feels good. I do. It is kind of a shame for me because Knuckle Duster is my favorite character, and in this like last section of the story, he's like appeared and he like had a couple good moments in like the end of like the most recent arc, but it's like he's kind of been like MIA for a big chunk of the series, and that kind of hurt me a little.
So he came back to help his boy, you know, at least from what I think. He came back to help Koichi.
Yeah.
But he is generally like, he was like, yeah, no, I did what I wanted to do and now I'm out. And I think that's pretty cool too. I think you don't get that a lot. It felt kind of real, especially the chapters talking about it, like from their perspective, like, oh, we're going to wait for him to come back. And then it's like a few years pass.
Yeah, it does help, because it's not like he's forgotten about. He is being mentioned by the characters, and it kind of like gives Koichi like a pathway to like develop himself, because it's like, oh man, I don't have like him here to like help me out anymore. Like, how am I gonna handle this situation? And like, you know, so I don't think it's wrong that the series kind of takes him out for a bit. It just hurts me. Alright, so Undead Unluck, I think, is really interesting. In note that I'm not using a positive or a negative word for that. I think Undead Unluck starts in a way where there's a lot of really complex ideas at the start. If you know anything about like philosophy or like psychology, a lot of the terminology that's being used in Undead Unluck to describe like the world mechanics, like undead and negators, and like just the setup for the world, has a lot to do with Sigmund Freud and his idea of the death drive, which was then expanded upon by other notable philosophers like Lacan and currently something Zizek is his name. It's I know that this, just starting off, I mean, with that idea, it's a little dense. I think that despite the fact that the series is very simplistic, I think that there's a lot of like really deep and very complicated ideas behind it. That's how I was feeling at the start. The series, as it continues on, continues to explore this idea of like the Freudian death drive, which, I don't know, should I even explain that? I feel like it's impossible for me to explain on the fly in this podcast. Essentially, the TLDR is Freud had this idea that people are trying to die, but not actively trying to die. Everything in life is essentially given meaning because we are able to die, which ties into the main character, because he starts out as like this guy who's like, I can't die, I want to die. So he meets Fuko, the main girl, who has the like negator ability of unluck. So if he touches her and she likes him, or like she has some sort of affinity, like if she likes the person or whatever, not like deeply, just like it could be on a small scale or large scale, like she just has a natural like, oh yeah, I just like people in general. So like there's always going to be like a little bit, like usually you'll end up in a really bad situation, like you'll just be really unlucky. It's like suddenly like trucks will like hit you, meteors might fall from the sky if she really likes you, stuff like that. And so the main character is like, this is it, you might be my chance to finally die. I can finally die. As you keep on going though, I think one of the weird things about this series, I think it definitely gets a little weaker over time, and I think it's because things start to feel a lot more contrived. There is definitely still that message in which the point is that you start off with the death drive with like Freud, and as the series keeps going, the theme of the series is essentially, hey, like, it doesn't really matter that the death drive exists, because at the end of the day, if you just reframe the way you look at something, then you can basically like accomplish what you need, and like you can find fulfillment and happiness if you just, because the problem that we're facing is like, how do we escape the death drive, you know? How do we go beyond and past the death drive? And a lot of the series recently has been solving a lot of the conflicts by basically saying, well, if you just look at it differently, if you have a different perspective on your situation, then like you can do anything. And the themes are driving the story more than the story is reflecting on the themes. And what I mean by that is that I feel like the problem with where it's been going recently is that it's just kind of taking these ideas and preaching them at the audience rather than like the actions of the characters being reflective of like how we're supposed to enact that change in our own lives. It's like kind of a problem because the way it comes off is, dude, they're just bullshitting the whole time, and they're just winning because they're bullshitting. So it's, yeah, I mean, how do you feel about the series, Nick?
Here's what I got out of it originally. Funny guy who don't die touches girl who make bad thing happen so he can try to die. I did not think so deeply into it when I got into it, and when Bobby was telling me, when I was following along when he was catching up for this, and he was telling me all this stuff, my brain exploded. I was like, bro, how did you get this out of it? I had zero. I had like zero. I was not able to follow. And then there's the complexity of what he's saying, which I I tried to grasp the best that I can, but it's a lot of philosophy, gobbledygook. But hey, I like it. It gets really slow in the middle, but the most recent chapters I've been very into. Specifically, his fight with another main character.
Rip, yeah.
What's his name? Rip? Yeah. The like seriousness of it all, and like it's just really cool. I don't know what to say. It's that fight in particular, it was like, ooh, I'm back in. You've got my attention again, and I'm excited to see where it's going. It had lost me for a few chapters. Specifically the what was it, spring arc?
Yeah, I actually really liked that that
really?
interaction, but it was really different. It was really different, and I liked it because it was different. But I definitely could see people being like,
maybe it's because it was weekly. Maybe it's because when you read it, you binged it. When I read it, it was weekly, and it was just so slow for a weekly viewing.
It was a lot of chapters actually, because they had like they had like 3 phases to that fight, and none of it was action. It was all just like,
and like each phase was like 4 chapters. It was so rough.
Yeah, that's where one of the things I was talking about too was kind of a problem. They just kind of injected the one character we like didn't really know anything about, and they were like, oh yeah, this is them. So it was definitely a little weird, and it still had that problem I was talking about, where it's like the themes and ideas were driving the plot rather than actually like making sense. There's a lot of stuff in Undead Unluck that feels very ham-fisted. I still like it. Like, I still like it. I like reading it. I think the characters are cool. I like Fuko and Andy a lot. Yeah, I mean, what it seems like is we're about to start time traveling. Like, not sort of time traveling. It's more like the world is resetting constantly. And they have to like basically just keep trying.
The world's really cool. Like the world building in this series is very cool. I remember that's what really got me interested, was when the like galaxy rule got added in. I was like, yo.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah, the way their world is constructed is essentially the universe is made up of rules and laws that exist, right? There are certain concepts, and as they lose, like if they have like this book that is essentially driving towards Armageddon, but if it has tasks, and if you complete the tasks, then you drive yourself more distant from Armageddon. Like after a certain threshold, you'll like go away from that, and then you'll remove certain rules from the universe. So like certain things will just stop existing. Like you can, like hot and cold can stop existing. Galaxies will stop existing. Like they didn't even know what days of the week were, because the concept didn't exist until they lost and it was added into their universe, which is again, kind of a play on the whole like death drive thing, because it's like, yeah, but
very very cool. I hope that it doesn't lose steam again, because there was a period of time where I was like, but so far very happy with it.
Yeah, it seems like they're approaching the final arc literally by writing the arc.
Yeah.
Dude, how does anyone not know the story of One Piece, bro? It's about Luffy. He's a pirate and he wants to be the king of the pirates by finding the legendary treasure One Piece.
I think it's best to really just leave the summary at that. It would kind of be daunting to try and go further. He gets more friends. You care about them all.
Every arc is so they're all following a similar formula, but it's the world. I think the thing about One Piece that makes it interesting is not the plot, and the characters are good. I like the characters, but the thing that I think really is captivating about One Piece is the world that's built.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's harming One Piece is its length. But the I think it's really worth, regardless, like if you feel like, oh, it's too difficult to get into, 1,000 something chapters, like that's too much. um it really is, worth it. I think if you like shonen manga to a degree where you like things like My Hero and pretty much anything else that we read here today, you would be doing yourself a disservice skipping this one. It's very, very good.
Yeah, I think this current arc too is maybe the best, which is kind of crazy to say about such an absurdly popular series that's been running for over 1,000 chapters. The idea that maybe you could say that the current arc is like maybe the best one, honestly, like just absolutely insane. And I think that one of the things that really makes One Piece, like in general, really special is there's been so much lore that's been kind of like been amounting to like this arc, and it's still amounting to this day. You know, it's we still haven't gotten the ultimate payoff, but we've gotten stuff like in Wano, right? We've gotten stuff like the Roger flashback. We like have a lot more information on this Joy Boy figure who we like have known the name of, but we don't know. We didn't know anything about the nature of Joy Boy, but now we do. We have like the Emperors of the Sea, like we're fighting like two of them simultaneously. There's so many characters that like we know and love that are like here, that have like appeared. Jinbei has finally like come back into the crew. There's like so many things about One Piece that it kind of is a slow burn in that way, but I think the world building is amazing. And I think one of the craziest things about One Piece that I don't think I've ever experienced with many other series is you could talk for several hours. And I don't mean like an hour. I mean you like literally like you could talk for several hours and you've like talked about nothing related to the plot of One Piece. You're just talking about the mechanics of the world, talking about the politics, you're talking about like the interesting like mysteries that exist, because there's so many like small and large mysteries that exist in the world of One Piece that you can just like, it's so rich and so deep that you are able to like find another One Piece fan, talk to them for like 10 years, and you might not even mention Luffy's name. You might not even mention any of the main characters because the world really is that impressive.
And you and I have done that several times.
Yeah, 100%. Like, there's so many interesting characters, and there's so much like set up and put into the world of One Piece that it's like you can't do it any justice by attempting to talk about it like in this current like format we're doing.
But we're gonna try every
week.
And
there's a lot of people who have like hour-long videos on like every chapter, because like One Piece really is that dense and deep. It's not dense, it's a light read, but if you try to look for things, you will find things, and that is a guarantee. It's amazing how much trust that the readers have in Oda, that we are able, that like he enables us to like do this.
Yeah, it's very, very, very good series. I'm excited to see it end, but I'm gonna hate to see it go. We've already kind of given most of the our feelings about My Hero proper when we talked about Vigilantes, but the basic premise of this series is this world has like 80% of the people have some sort of superpower. Main character does not. He has no power. He wants one desperately, wants to be a hero. He looks up to like the Superman of this world named All Might, and he does a heroic act despite not having any powers. It impresses All Might, and in that way, All Might reveals to him that he can actually give his power to him. And so the story kicks off. We move on. We see lots of arcs go by, lots of fun to be had, and it's also a very popular series as well. So wouldn't be surprised if you don't already know about it. But the General feeling is very mixed for me in particular. I like it. I read it every week. But I have gotten the distinct feeling that the author is rushing a lot of the series, and I think there is an interview where he states just that, which is unfortunate. But I like it. I'm going to keep reading it. I'm going to see it through. But it's a little soured for me. The most recent chapters have been a little... It feels like conflict gets resolved way too quickly. Maybe that's a misdirect, but yeah, that's all I have to say there.
Yeah, I mean, you were saying to me before that you felt kind of bad for Todoroki's character. Like, not like Todoroki the person, but like just the way he's being handled right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels like, really mainly I feel bad for the fans of Todoroki because I don't necessarily really care too much about him, but I know a lot of people who do, who think he's like the coolest one. And I just feel like in the most recent chapter he does this like big move to beat up Dabi. And it's like the fight that has been built up for so long, like fans have been so excited, and it like ends in one attack. And this attack was introduced to us in this chapter in a flashback where he tells Midoriya, oh yeah, I have this new attack. And that's that. And it just kind of feels like if like this happened with like my favorite character of My Hero, if this happened with Bakugo, I would have been like just let down, a little sad about it. So I feel bad for people who are fans of Todoroki, and the most recent arc in general has been not something I'm super fond of. But overall, it's probably just I'm being too hard on it because it's so big. But I do like this series, and I am excited to see how this ends because apparently the author is trying to get to an ending, and I'm excited I'll be there for it. I'll read it, and I will enjoy it.
I think like one of the weirdest things for me that I've been experiencing as I've been reading My Hero is it definitely does feel like they're just trying to like tie up loose ends, but I find it really strange also because there's a lot of moments, and I think the most egregious one to me that stands out is the Stars and Stripes character, like right at the start of like this final like conflict where it was I found it so strange. And this is like just one example, but this is like kind of how I've felt a lot of My Hero is in even like the small parts where it's like just not making progress that I find very satisfactory, and then when it is, it's like insane. So like the two biggest things that like going into this arc that have bothered me are one, Stars and Stripes showing up, losing, and accomplishing nothing. And when I say that, I mean, and the second thing, of course, before I move on to that, the second thing being Midoriya's growth being absolutely like my neck is falling off my head. It's so breakneck fast. It's insane. Like, so starting with Stars and Stripes, it's really strange to me that they were talking about Shigaraki. They're like, he's coming in 7 days, guys. He's coming in 7 days. We gotta be careful. It's coming. And then they're like, okay, but if we just use some like crazy like mumbo jumbo, he's coming in 3 days. Actually, it's not a week. He's coming in 3 days, guys. 3 days, and Shigaraki's gonna be like full power. We gotta watch out. So what happens? Stars and Stripes shows up. She fights Shigaraki. She dies. And I'm like, okay. And then it's like, oh, but thanks to her sacrifice, we have 7 more days again instead of 3 days. And I'm like, what? You show this new character. She loses. And we go from Shigaraki's coming from 7 days to Shigaraki's coming in 7 days. You have all this content in the middle that to me, I'm just like, nothing happened. I was very confused. I don't understand why, because like in a way, if I'm being hopeful, they just wanted to introduce the idea of America so that there's a tie-in with Vigilantes and maybe Koichi's coming from America. That's the only... I don't know why that happened. It was so strange. And when you're wasting chapters, like what what feels like to me, like reading it, when you're wasting chapters on stuff like that, when you're wasting time on all this exposition that we don't really need. Like, there's so many times in My Hero Academia where some characters like, oh yeah, that is happening. It's because like this is going on. Yeah, that makes sense because like that other character, and this is what the characters are saying on the screen in their exposition bubbles. This is just what they're saying. There's like, oh yeah, they're like telling us like this is what happened to this character, even though we already know that that's what happened. They could just say, yeah, so this is the plan. We need to do 1, 2, 3 things, and I would be like, yeah, that makes sense based on what I've read. But it almost feels like Horikoshi either doesn't believe that his readers are capable of putting 1 and 1 together, and he has to explain everything like very thoroughly for no reason, or he's just naturally long-winded. Like the Deku joke of like he overanalyzes everything and he like says like that's comedic. That's kind of funny. I'm not complaining about that stuff, but I think that might be Horikoshi projecting himself, because I think that's kind of what he does through the dialogue like a little bit too often, which is a problem because now you see like Deku, he has one for all. He has the super like strength power that like obviously he grew into that power. We all know it. We accept it. He had a lot of growth that he had to do in order to master the ability like as much as he has. And so maybe he's like going a little bit too crazy sometimes, but I'm a little more forgiving about that. Black Whip, when he learned Black Whip, we had to like go through this whole thing, you know, of like, oh, I have to learn this new power. It's like very difficult, and like I have to like get used to this thing. He had to have like a mindset change, and I was like, okay, yeah, he can use Black Whip now. It's pretty earned. Suddenly, Deku can fly by combining like 2 other quirks that we didn't really see like sufficient training for that he's done, and I'm like, what? Like, I understand that he has access to all these other powers, but like, it just felt way too sudden. Like, he's combining quirks. Because his flight is not a flight quirk. It's like
he can float.
Like, yeah, he can float and he can like propel, and he's combining them to fly. And it's like, yeah, that seems kind of natural, but you would think that if he can't use like Black Whip at all, like before he used it by accident, and he had to, like when he attempted to use it, there's like a tiny like blob basically that was like not even a whip. It's just like you would think that he needs to like train, right? But
he just the plot needed him to know them all, so he does.
Yeah, so I feel like the pacing of My Hero Academia I feel like it's abysmal, like to be quite frank, which is a shame because I do like a lot of the characters. It's just I don't think the way the series is progressing is handling itself very well. But I am excited to see how like this arc ends and like see where it keeps going, because we are making progress in the plot. It's just at a very very strange like rate, I think. Very convenient that this is the last thing we have to talk about, because I can't say much about it at all.
I was gonna, if you didn't make that comment right now, I was gonna say, all right, Bobby, take it away. So I guess now to explain what Bobby had to go through over the past 2 months. He read how many chapters?
I believe the number was in the ballpark of between 930 and 960 chapters.
Of all the manga we've read, he's read a few of them, like Blue Exorcist and One Piece and stuff like that.
Blue Box and Kaiju No.8. And I was only a little bit behind on Spy X Family. I was like a few chapters back.
You got fully caught up on all of them for me, and thank you. But one thing that you kind of took a rain check on was Black Clover, and that is because it is on hiatus. So how this is going to work, we're not going to be talking about it this week, but I'm acknowledging its existence because I read it, I'm caught up, but I want Bobby to kind of get a standard experience with it. I I'm sure he knows the very bare bones plot, but what we're going to do after he gets caught up on Black Clover is we're going to pick a series, probably on a wheel like this, and we are going to randomize them, find one, and then slowly go through it week to week. We'll talk about the arcs we're going through and how much we're enjoying it, talk about it like that, and then at the end, the intention is to, when we're finally caught up, it'll just be added on to our grand wheel of all the other series, and we'll discuss the newly released chapters. So Black Clover is the last thing Bobby's going to have to get caught up on, and then we'll start tackling series together, because at this point, other than Black Clover, there's nothing else that I've read. Same with Bobby. So, yeah, if you've made it this far, thank you very much. I think I'm supposed to tell you to subscribe.
Maybe like the video, maybe comment. I think commenting is probably one of the best things you can do.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk to you. And if you're commenting and you're not my mom, I will give you a high five in the comments. So I'll see you there. And to everyone else who watched this far, thank you. We appreciate it. We're gonna try and do this once a week. The editing is going to be difficult to get into for me. I don't have any experience doing it, so it's going to be a learning process. So it might not be out every, same time that I would like it to be, but eventually I will get on a schedule. I will get things done in a timely manner, and we hope you stick with us. So
heck yeah.
This has been the first episode of Shonen Dump. It's not going to be as long going forward, hopefully, because we're just going to talk about the newly released chapters going forward. And thanks for riding with us.